hitting the go live button. And we are live.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Read Pack.
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes the candles to light you to bed. Here comes the chopper to chop up your head.
Oh, okay, cool. If I have to like cough or something.
And welcome to the American Read Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Who's gonna talk first, Matt?
Andrew, well, I was letting the same people in frame talk first.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Andrew is I completely God damn it. Hal for for our live. If you watch this live on YouTube, Andrew is a purple Hal 9000.
Yep. Metallic purple.
I wish I was that useful.
Just gonna kill us eventually inside a spaceship.
Whoop. I just pulled
I
that
don't
out.
think you know what you're talking about.
Back to this. And I'm back. All right. I pulled my headphones out. I'm back.
Oh, okay.
I didn't mean
Never
to.
left, though.
Yeah, that's okay. I just called it out in case people wanted to know. What the hell is that guy doing? Is he tweaking?
Oh yeah, the cord on that can pop up. Anyways, the
There's
start
no
of the
meth
show.
here, get out.
I was told there'd be meth.
It'd be an interesting show if we were on meth. Just really frantically talking over each other.
The thing about the government is my skin is itching.
Yeah. That's about it, too. So, big week this week. Got 4 people on the show.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk for like 20 minutes before you run out of things to say.
No, there's plenty of things to say. I'm just usually Nathan has some weird news story to start with, and I was just waiting for that.
Oh no, I was I sent the spin launch kinetic launch system has its first successful flight
Yeah.
today, and that's the one where it looks like a giant drum with a stovepipe on the top of it. And what it does,
It looks like a turbo on a car,
yeah, kind of like something like that, yeah.
or like a snail's shell.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird looking thing, but it basically is a centrifugal orbital launch system. So it just spins the missile around and around and around, and they're very fast. And then at some point, once it reaches a critical RPM, it releases it, and the missile flies out the stovepipe and into the atmosphere. And then, of course, it breaks open and thrusts to achieve orbit. But this is I don't know. It had massive startup costs, but they say it's like 25% of the cost of firing a chemical missile into the air, chemically fired missiles. But it uses a lot of energy. Basically, the magneto that drives the centrifuge around is based on the same technology we use for our Gauss cannons on some of our battleships. So it's that kind of power being shot, to spin this thing around fast enough to throw a rocket into space. So this is not for people, though. You can't launch people. Just for payloads.
What about like space chimps or like space dogs?
I think they'd explode, actually, or they'd be killed under that kind of centrifugal force.
Cockroaches?
I'm sure it's going to be tried. Once everyone has one of these, it's going to get weird in space.
Well, I remember the Air Force started work on a cannon that could to try to shoot satellites into space.
Yeah.
But they could only get so far into the atmosphere and then the program was dismantled, and then eventually Saddam Hussein tried to buy the cannon to shoot at other countries, and the guy who was making the deal was like killed by
The Mossad.
Yeah.
Because it was a way to saturate Israel with
chemical
large
weapons.
artillery shells.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was there's actually a movie about that called Making the Super Gun or something.
Oh, is it a movie? Like, not like a documentary?
Yeah, it's kind of both.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a documentary with actors and reenactments of this
So
very long, unwieldy looking cannon that was built on a mountainside.
So I think I saw on History Channel when they had like, I think it was called like Super Weapons or something like that. One of those shows, like, 15 years ago.
Yeah, it was. It's an interesting concept. I mean, that's what the V3 program was in Germany. Was they were just going to launch missiles across the English Channel from they were from tubes though, and they were fired underground, and it was just projectiles with an explosive head. It didn't have the whole like V2 missile body or anything, and they were pretty close to trying it out, but we incidentally bombed it because it had multiple tubes, and they said if it had worked, and nobody, I mean, it was pretty much proven it could work, but they said they could have hit England like 400 times a day with something like that, and I don't know how they slewed it around and aimed it, or if the projectiles had fins on them that could guide it. But we incidentally bombed it, and like, oh, okay, no, we don't have to worry about that. Didn't find out till well after the war, but it was called the V3, and that's what the Air Force and the guy who designed that originally based it off of. And yeah, that's what Saddam Hussein was going to have, a super gun in the desert. To I don't know what it fired or whatever, but yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Oh, it's just a shell. And I'm not sure if it's the start of it, but that's where I first heard of Sabo shells.
Oh, okay.
Because that better kept pressure behind the payload.
Yeah.
And so that's because they're trying to launch a satellite into space.
Oh, okay. So it was just like a sheath that rode, and then when it came out the end of the barrel, the Sabo would split and the satellite would go up into space.
Yep. I'm not sure if that's the first implementation of that, because I know like Sabo shells are used in shotgun shells, but I'm not sure if they existed before this thing. I don't know, but
oh yeah, they had them in World War II.
Oh, okay.
Anti-tank artillery and stuff. They weren't. I think the Germans used it a lot, but because they were always like, well, no, nothing's too expensive for us to try. Because like we have those in like tanks.
Yeah.
I think it's like a tungsten rod just rides down the barrel in a Sabo sheath. They have rifle rounds like that for some reason.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's that weird. Was it the Spew program? Where they're trying to make basically a rifle bullet that would act like a shotgun at the end of travel.
Yeah, I think so. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, they're always trying something like. If you, can we combine like the range of a rifle but the blast effect of a shotgun? And it's like, do you have money? we can try.
Yeah, they couldn't get it to work reliably, but yeah, they put like $50 million into that program, which that was back in the 50s. So who knows?
Well, that was before missile. Like missiles can do things like that now too. Because they tried to mess around and have artillery do that, and it's like it works, but in very specific circumstances. Yeah,
that the Army's working on. They're prototyping a bunch of new guns, and it's basically like a new rifle bullet. I think it's like I can't remember what size it is, but it's basically just a bigger 5.56 round, where it's like it's bigger than the .223 slug, or whatever. but it just has like one of those where it's like a bunch of powder and then like it's necked down severely, so it fires way faster.
Yeah.
And then it's meant to defeat body armor, which basically no armed forces out there like has like the whole army armed with bullets that defeat body armor.
Yeah.
But both the Russians and the Americans are working on it. So
Feverishly working on it.
so I have another toy haul.
They'll claim that they have it, but
Or they'll use that one rifle that fires 2 bullets so it hits exactly in the same spot at the same time.
oh, the AK-97, yeah.
Yeah.
With the reciprocating barrel. Like, yeah, what could go wrong there? Let's have a bunch of complicated moving parts. Because that's the legacy of Kalashnikov, right? I mean, they have them. They're out there, but they haven't issued them generally to their army. So there's got to be a reason for that.
So I have another toy haul here.
All right. Toy time. What do we got?
So I got, this is Tech from the Bad Batch. It's a new series on Disney, Disney Plus.
Yeah, I think that's Disney Plus.
And we got good old Moff Gideon from
Oh,
the
good.
Mandalorian with the Darksaber. We got Grief Karga, good old Carl Wilson.
Oh, okay.
Just good price on it. I thought this model was really good. It was good price, and I just liked it. But this is the Lando Calrissian, but from the Solo movie.
Oh, okay.
Really good model. And then we got just an Attack of the Clones Clone Trooper Lieutenant.
Oh, all right.
That's from the Clone. And this one's from the Clone Wars TV show. A Mandalorian Loyalist.
Oh, all right.
A Mandalorian Super Commando.
Oh, okay.
So they kind of have horns on their helmet.
I was gonna say, I thought that was some piece of equipment, but it's like decorative horns. Okay.
Yeah, it's almost like Darth Maul.
Darth Maul, yeah.
Just a Sith Mandalorian.
Then we have Clone Commander Gree.
Okay. What's he from?
This is I saw him in Revenge of the Sith. They have clone troopers on Kashyyyk, and they have like this green armor to like blend in.
Oh, okay, okay.
So I think
Now
this guy is the guy who tried to kill
Yoda.
Yoda. Killed him pretty. So he's not long for this world. And this is just a stormtrooper from The Mandalorian, just a normal ass one.
Oh, okay.
Which is like post Return of Jedi.
Yeah.
And then I got a Bandai Boba Fett.
Oh, okay. Probably a good model.
Yeah, that's my current haul, and I got one more on the way, which is... Oh, actually, I got like 6 more on the way, but they're all pre-ordered. But there's a website called Now in Stock,
Mm-hmm.
and you can set up things to like when something's in stock, or like, hey, it's in stock. And so I got it today, and it was weird about things. It's like, it's not in stock, then it is in stock, then it's not in stock. And then I was buying it from Walmart, and it's like, well, because it's not, you're not spending more than $35, we're charging you $5 in shipping. And it's like, what? And then like other orders didn't have it, but whatever.
Makes sense. Let's see. I have a toy haul for you too.
Alright.
Here is a Panther road wheel for a Panther late war steel model, and here's the inner road wheel. I've only got 56 more of these to paint, and then I'll have the wheels done. Oh, and here's the gear and sprocket setup. But the only reason I mention this is because they have... This was like becoming a riddle to me, because they have the instructions for the early Panther, which had rubber wheels rubber around the rim of the road wheels. This is the late war ones when they cut that out because it was too expensive to produce, and these just have the standard steel around the rim. Well, they gave the instructions in the instruction book for the early Panther, which those road wheel constructions are completely different. So I kept looking at the parts I have, looking at the instructions, trying to find something on the internet, and it's like, am I stupid? Why is this? This is not. Am I just having some kind of moment here where I can't see it? And then I went to some like tank builders forum and found, like, after going through all kinds of conversations, it's like, oh yeah, on some of those early kits they put the wrong instructions in. Like, here's the right one. Like, oh, okay. I thought I was just like, maybe I should quit building models. I'm obviously too dumb for this. This is not looking like anything I see in front of me. And then I found out why. It's like, oh yeah, because it's a totally different. Because at the end of by the end of the war, they couldn't do things like build nice rubber rings that they had to weld on and then press rubber on. They had to get these tanks mostly fought unpainted because they were just pushed out of the factory like, go. So let's see, where's the other part of it? And here's the inside of a Panther tank from World War. I can't really illuminate it, but yeah, there's the engine, there's the differential, there's the transmission, where the guys sit. And, what else do we have on Toy Hall? Oh, here's the lower part of the turret where the guy sits inside, and this is where he sits and shoots the gun. There's 3 different positions in there. All this stuff was hydraulic and very comparable to the tanks we use today. But the German tanks were the only tanks that were comparable to what we use today in terms of using a lot of hydraulics and aiming technology, because our tanks, the Russian tanks, the British tanks, much simpler than these. Also much more reliable than these. So. This also has a night vision machine gun on it, which was a feature of the Panther tanks. And not a lot of them made it into service because it took a huge amount of power. And how they did night vision was they basically were shooting light out at a spectrum that wasn't visible to the human eye, and then you looked through a monocle that could see, it would reflect light off back into that monocle, and you could know how to shoot your machine gun. Light bulbs lasted about an hour, and they were very delicate optics, so like getting strafed with a machine gun, like that was a wrap for that. And they were enormously expensive, but this was known to have night vision an early form of night vision optics.
I'm sure they'll find a way to bolt it on a rifle in the new Call of Duty game.
They did have rifles with that system on it too in real life, but you could only go as far as the power cord stretched. You couldn't carry it around with you very easily. But all you had to do was make optics that could see in that form of light, and then it was like someone was shining a flashlight around, because it wasn't doing what night vision optics do today, where it takes background light and converts it into a signal. It was projecting its own light, and then you were receiving it with a certain optic, and it was very fragile and didn't work very well, and had heat problems and everything else. But it did exist, and they were the only people that had them. It was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's my toy haul. Actually, I've had that model for almost 8 months. So I've been working on it a long time.
Well, it's quite big, so.
Yeah, it's 1/16 scale. That's not a. I like the transmission in this because it had more running gears than almost any tank of the time, including the bigger brother Tiger tank. The recommended service on it was drive for 5,600 kilometers, replace transmission. That was the service interval. It wasn't like repair transmission, change fluid, and it's just no, replace transmission at 5,600 kilometers, which is not,
not a lot.
Yeah, well, tanks in World War II mostly couldn't, like they show in movies and stuff, like they do like cross country runs and stuff. They couldn't run for more than 3 hours at a time, or they'd overheat. And that was almost everyone's tank, not just the German tanks or the Russian tanks. Or our tanks could run longer because they had we paid a little more attention to cooling the motors. Some of our tanks had air-cooled radial engines in them though, and didn't require that at all. Would be fun to drive. I've seen one of those in a museum. It's just a Sherman tank with a giant, looks like a prop engine from World War II. It's like, oh, they put those in there. It's like, yeah, they just, anything they had, put it in there. Most of them had like Detroit diesels and stuff, but yeah, that was kind of that was interesting to see one with a radial engine, and I was like, I'd like to hear that start. I bet you that's loud as hell, and fun to sit next to. So
yeah, the Abrams, they use kind of a thing. It's like a jet helicopter engine diesel thing. So yeah, when you start it up, it's like just
yeah, you're waiting for like things to pressurize and stuff. Like, what is this? So when I think tank, I always think of like a diesel engine starting or something rattly. But no, not our tanks. They have jet engines in them that can run off almost any grade of fuel you can find. I think aren't they universal?
I don't know.
Because I know they like a lot of their trucks and stuff. Like, yeah, if you have diesel fuel, kerosene, that's fine. Gasoline, it'll work if you mix it with oil. Like anything you want to throw in it.
Well, the Marines used to have diesel ones back in the first Desert Storm because there's a thing a whole thing they made about where like because the armies had the hybrid jet engine in it, and so that it got, what was it, 8 gallons per mile.
Yeah.
And so they had to stop and refueling while the Marines had a diesel engine so they could go farther, and the Marines had to keep stopping to wait for the army to catch up with them. And so that was like one of the reasons one of the first guys running that campaign got fired.
Yeah,
because I think it was somebody else before Schwarzkopf or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that everything I've read about that war is like the biggest problem we faced was not the enemy, it was our supply lines. Like there was they had all kinds of logistic problems. Also almost ran out of missiles and bombs. Like don't we have a lot of that? I guess not.
I mean, you can only bring so much over, so.
I mean, in our inventory, even at home, they had to start cranking on the contractors to, we need more or whatever. It was mainly drop bombs too. It wasn't like the Hellfires or something. It was
yeah, I guess there's
dropped out of planes.
Yeah, they're still using the B-52 then, although it's probably still used today. But I'm not sure if it said bomber.
Yeah, they still use it for bombing. Okay. They took away its nuclear capability a couple years ago. Oh, because they phased out that nuclear bomb, and it was a sad day. No, keep that. Those are the bombs that, like, if the plane got shot down over Russia, over its targets, they had what they have, and they had quartz crystals in the bombs, and if those got crushed, like from a crash, I forget. I don't know if it was like working with the bomb was working with parts of the plane to tell its altitude or whatever. But if those crystals got crushed, it detonated on its own after an hour. So it would at least blow up somewhere in Russia. And it was a 1 megaton bomb too. It was a big one. It wasn't a little one. And they had those into the 80s, I think. But it's like they were the only ones equipped with that. What they called that, like a failed deadly system. Because remember the Goldsboro incident where the guys had to bail out and the bombs crashed with the plane? It was over Tennessee.
Yeah.
Or I think it was Tennessee. Yeah, and they said like it was combined like 6 megatons worth of ordnance in there. But because it had that system, it was like because if you have the bombs, if they're not armed, they won't do that. But if you flip the switch to arm, then if the plane crashes or is shot down, then they will detonate on their own an hour after crashing. And the pilot was like, I don't think it was armed, because they just had to bail out of the plane. And then it crashed. It's like, yeah, I hope it's not armed. We'll know in a little bit. There'll be no doubt. Yeah, they don't do that fun stuff anymore, like fly around with. Well, we hope not. They have lost some occasionally, not lost them permanently, but like, hey, are there nuclear bombs on that plane? Oh, yeah, shit. Do I file paperwork to do that? Well, we'll just cover this one up. Keep it to yourself as long as we get them back.
Wasn't that? Is it For Honor, that Cuba Gooding Jr. Diving movie?
Oh, Men of Honor. Yeah, that was when they lost the one in Palermo, Italy, or something under the ocean. Yeah, that was another B-52 losing a nuke crisis. Problem with those B-52s is the reason they have so many crashes with those is in the 60s and 50s, they were on constant deterrent patrol. Like the rule was, it was like 20 up, 20 down or something like that. It was like all our B-52s were constantly like flying up to the North Polar region and then back unless World War III started. So that's why they had so many incidents with the B-52s, because they're constantly. I think that's the military's has logged the most hours of an aircraft of that type.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, they just constantly flew. And I don't think that stopped till like late in the Kennedy or Johnson administration. Which, can you imagine how horribly expensive that would be? Just constantly, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
It lands, immediately do repairs on it. Don't get them done, send it back up.
Do you guys think that the music group, the B-52s, if they ever lost a nuclear bomb on tour? I'd like to know.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I don't know. What do you call Rock Lobster?
Yeah.
A missing nuke.
That Rock Lobster means, oh shit, we lost a nuke. That's what it means.
No, what's the name for it was a movie. What's it, like Lost Quiver or something?
Oh, Broken Arrow?
Broken Arrow, yeah. There is
Well,
actually like.
Isn't that a John Woo movie?
I
Is that a
think
John
so.
Woo movie? Yeah. Okay. Was that before or after Face Off? Does anybody
Before.
know? Before. Okay.
I
think that was-
Christian Slater was in that.
That was John Woo's second American movie.
Were there doves in it? I don't remember.
Don't know.
You gotta have doves in everything.
There might have been. I just remember the performances in that movie were like uniquely funny.
Yeah. I mean, it's all over top. I still like that movie, but some people really like to shit on it. But it's a fun movie. It's like, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but
Yeah, I'm not watching that movie to like ponder our nuclear deterrence. It's just like, oh, this is interesting. Some of the dialogue in it was, it was just like really weird. Like you could tell it was forced dialogue. Even the actors couldn't make it good. But I think it's just like written that way, and it's like, well,
That's why they should have had Nicolas Cage on it. Because I just listened to another podcast where they're talking about Face Off. He improvised a lot of stuff in that movie in Face Off that he wasn't supposed to do. So
I enjoyed. Yeah, Face Off was the one I enjoyed too, just for its like strangeness. It's like, this is so nuts.
I mean, what better way to start a movie than killing a kid? You know,
Yeah.
get the audience on your side.
Yeah, that was. But yeah. So Broken Arrow, check it out. Christian Slater.
well,
Great
I
movie.
remember a movie, and I hyped it up for these guys.
Gleam in the Cube.
No. It was by Dawn's Early Light. And I remember thinking it was a cool movie when I was a kid, and then I found it on DVD. It's like, check out this movie, it's awesome. And it's like the most low rent TV movie you could get. Even though it has a great cast, it's got people in it, but it's just such a ridiculous movie and its production.
It was HBO's first. We're gonna make a movie for HBO, in-house HBO movie, and it was based on a book called Trinity's Child. I forget. The book was a lot better than the movie. Like the book was more scary than the movie. The movie just made it seem it was dark. It was a dark movie, but it was almost like some of the stuff in it was so ridiculous. It's like, oh, I can't take this seriously. But yeah, it's about an accidental nuclear war.
Well, I think they broke out laughing. There was a part where there's instead of the board and saying DEF CON, it had lists, and it went from snowman to cock pistol, and they just burst out loud. It's like, what is this?
What does that mean? And
Yeah, what was their snap? What was their snap count thing like? Yeah, it was like snowman, Applejack, and then cock pistol. And it was like, what? What are they doing? I don't know if there was a rights reason they couldn't use the regular one, or
So if I see a vanity license plate that says cock pistol, then that's a fan of that movie. Okay, gotcha.
Or
Well, I mean,
just a
those
big-
are actual like nuclear readiness terms. Some of them, and then some of them were just made up. I think Roundhouse was that's the actual, like, we're launching nuclear weapons. Because Tom Clancy somehow illegally knew all of those, and they had to change them because he had them in Sum of All Fears, the book, not the novel, not the
movie.
TV, the movie, but the book. Yeah, he had like all those things in there, and it's like, oh, you're not supposed to know that. Oh, damn it! How'd you find that out? It's like, I talked to someone in a bar. I was like, damn it. But yeah, that's a weird movie. It's a good book, but the book, it's only told from the point of view of like the military, and because it kind of follows the same premise, but it's a lot more people speculating what's going on than actually changing your perspective character to character like the movie does, because a lot of it's like guessing what's happening. It's like, we don't know what happened. Well, our communication system went down as soon as nuclear bombs started going off. I thought we had backed up systems. It's like, well, we did, but they didn't work. Yeah, Trinity's Child is a lot more like hundreds of nuclear weapons were launched before they stopped it, and even then they were questioning, like, well, what kind of world is it going to be? keep launching these nuclear weapons.
Remember
But that book, it was Russia and China were at war,
Oh.
and somehow Russians misinterpreted a Chinese nuclear launch as us, and so they launched in retaliation when it wasn't us. But yeah, those are this old Cold War shit.
Yeah,
It's not interesting to anyone anymore.
it's interesting to us. No, there's still like good stuff in it. It's just like it just comes off very ridiculous, and some of it's cheap. I remember there's
Yeah.
I remember there's the bit where like the B-52 bombers are like getting chased by MiGs, and like they drop a nuke off on a mountain to get them.
Get them. I mean,
And
that
then,
would work if you could time that perfectly.
Yeah. And then the one lady accidentally like looks to the window and is blinded by the nuclear blast. And
Yeah, now that is a true thing. Those planes do have those curtains, and you can fly, with your curtains pulled. But it's like, oh, that's a frightening concept. But they also B-52s also had terrain following radar and shit. So
have a quick F1 update. We had the Mexico Grand Prix last week.
yeah,
So Max Verstappen won.
Yes.
And much like the last race in USA, a very exciting first lap, and then became very boring. Because of the high altitude, basically, especially with the Mercedes, the car couldn't be cooled because there's not enough air to cool the car.
okay, yeah, I know you were saying the last time we talked about it, they thought Mercedes was going to have some problems.
And so it became a dirty air problem. So essentially, if you got within 3 seconds of somebody, your car started to see the effects of the person in front of you. And so basically everyone was spaced 3 seconds apart and nothing happened.
Because if you got in there to fight, your engine would melt down.
Yeah. Well, also because it'd throw off your aerodynamics and your car would be scrubbing all over the road and ruin your tires. So, yeah. So basically nobody could pass. I think Gasly came in fourth and did a really good job. He's basically on his own the whole time, but like he couldn't catch up with the front three, but nobody could catch up with him. So he just did a nice race by himself. And then Perez got a podium, so it was good. He got a hometown podium. That was the only exciting part, is like he made a couple attempts to get past Lewis Hamilton towards the end of the race, but couldn't make it happen just because it was too hard to. But Verstappen takes like a 18-point lead in the championship, and then Mercedes retains a 1-point lead in the constructors championship.
Just 1 point now, huh?
Yeah. And then this week or tomorrow we have the Brazilian Grand Prix. And we had a whole bunch of shit happen today and yesterday.
Yeah, I see. What's the qualifying? Like Hamilton's like 11th in qualifying.
No, so this is the sprint race week, which means you have qualifying on Friday, and then you have sprint qualifying today.
Okay.
So Hamilton qualified first in qualifying, but his wing, the DRS wing, when it opens up, that gap was too wide, and so he was disqualified from qualifying.
Okay, interesting.
And so they put a new wing on the back of the car, and he has to start from the back of the grid.
Oh, okay.
So he started in 20th today. So Max Verstappen was on, first for this race, the sprint race. Bottas gets by him, and he wins the race. Verstappen stays in second. Leclerc, Sainz was in third. And so those top three people get points for this race. So Mercedes got 3 and Red Bull got 2, so Mercedes goes up in that thing. But the gap is deeper between Lewis and Max. But Lewis Hamilton, because he had to start from the back, he went from 20th to 5th. So yeah, these sprint races are awesome because they're over before you notice that the race is boring.
Yeah, I have a chance to get bored yet.
And Lewis Hamilton was just passing people every lap, so it was just exciting the whole time.
So how many laps is a sprint race then?
24 laps for this race.
And a normal race is how many?
On this track, it's 72.
Oh, okay.
But so Lewis Hamilton got a new engine as well. So
okay.
So he finished 5th, but because of the engine penalty, he's going back 5 places. So he's starting from 10th tomorrow.
Okay.
So, but there are a lot of places to pass on this track. And he passed a bunch of people today, so he's going to be fighting for it.
Oh yeah.
And Bottas is on pole, so Bottas is really good at these sprint races. But he's a fast driver.
What would make him good versus other people? What does he bring to it?
Bottas is just an extremely fast driver. He's not that great at racecraft, so he's not good at passing people. But if he gets out front and he just has to go really fast, he's good at that.
He's the guy. He can control it.
Oh yeah, he holds the record for going the fastest in an F1 car during a race.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Which is how fast?
231 miles per hour.
So not quite Henry. So more than Henry Ruggs III or whatever. Yeah. Is that too soon for that joke?
I don't even know who that is.
I'm not going to say any more about it, but yeah. So my strategy when driving go-karts, try to get in front of people and don't let them catch you.
What was this? But yeah, that's Bottas' thing. So just going really fast. But also he was on. So you got to pick your tire selection. So he was on soft tires, and Verstappen was on medium. So he's able to get kind of a better jump with the soft tires and go faster after that. And Verstappen was chasing him down a bit, but Verstappen got within DRS range, but then Bottas just got away from him. So it seemed like those tires barely survived the sprint race. So it was a bit of a gamble. So. But yeah, so that's F1.
All right. Well, let's see. Switch gears a little bit here. You want to talk about the book?
Yes. Well, that's Andrew.
Yeah.
You take it. Oh, yeah.
Well, should we refresh the call first, though?
Yeah. We'll go. We'll take a break for a second, and we'll be back. All right, I'll call you guys back.
All right.
So the Henry Ruggs thing I told you. So he's a Raiders receiver. He was driving drunk on a Tuesday morning,
right.
And he killed the lady. He's going 156 miles an hour on a street. So it was a very
No, I think it was a good joke. I liked it. I got it right away, but you immediately were like, I don't want to talk about Saga.
I was like,
Well,
I don't know if
hey.
I want to make light of some lady and her dog dying in the fire.
Remember, we're still going out.
Uh-oh.
If anyone's listening, I'm sorry about that lady, and I hope she's in a better place, which is not watching the Raiders. So there you go.
I wasn't part of any of that.
All right, good.
He's like, I disavow myself from all of that.
The refresh fixed the reverb, so
No more refresh reverb, huh?
yeah, I was getting when I was talking, I could hear myself coming back at me, but
That's never good.
so it was only slightly like alcoholic inducing.
Yes.
Good. All right, well, I'm going to start the recording again.
All right.
So we read a book this week, or we have been reading a book leading up to this week. Read Those Across the River by, can anyone help me with this guy's name?
Christopher Buehlman.
Is it Buehlman? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was
like the bike company.
Okay.
Although the E and the U might be switched, I'm not sure.
I just looked this book up because I don't know what it is. I like the cover. It's a good cover.
Yeah, it's an interesting book. It was published in 2014. Andrew suggested it.
Yep, because I read his first fantasy novel and then got into he wrote horror before that.
Oh, he's in the fantasy genre now?
Yeah, Black Tongue Thief. It's also on the list.
Yeah,
Okay.
he does a bunch of different stuff. He also does things at like Renaissance fairs and stuff. But he dances around genres. He also does comedy too. But
Have you read the Suicide Motor Club, Andrew?
And I don't believe so.
It's also by Christopher Buehlman.
this was his debut novel.
Yeah,
Oh,
this is
okay.
his
Those
first
Across the
novel.
Moon. So, yeah, or at least his first published one. You never know if writers how much they have in their bank or not.
I mean, his most popular one is his vampire novel that's after that.
Twilight?
No.
Well, before this, he was
Dawn.
a poet also, and he won awards for being a poet, which is interesting.
That is interesting. You don't
Yeah.
see a lot of cross pollination like
High
that.
grandeur for someone from Florida.
Yeah.
This is a completely side thing that I want to mention just because I think it's weird. So I was at Barnes & Noble today, and J.K. Rowling's new book is called The Christmas Pig. What do you think?
What is it about?
I don't know. I assume it's about how trans people are. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it's about.
It's a turf war.
Yeah, it's not a good thing, and I think she should stop writing. But also at Barnes & Noble today, I spent $200 on puppets. So yeah.
What kind of puppets?
There was a turtle one, and there was what do you call that plant-looking thing in the pipe in Mario Brothers? That one, a three-headed
Piranha plant.
Yeah, three-headed dragon. Let's see, groundhog, and what was the other one? A pig. Because my son's into puppets. So yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, I felt good about it. Till we left Barnes & Noble's and there was a homeless person begging, and I'm like, I don't have any money. I just spent $200 on puppets. I'm sorry. What do you want me to do? I can put a show on for you, but
Would you like to see a Punch and Judy show?
yeah, let's show you. It's yeah, income inequality. Andrew, to you. All right.
At least you could have done is give him some puppets so he could put on his own show and try to earn money.
I should have. I don't know what I was
We
thinking.
all know. Just go to his penis.
But anyways, I'm sorry. Back to the book.
No, this was, let's see. Well, I mean, you suggested, Andrew, you want to tell us about this?
All right, so like I said, I originally got into this book after reading his first fantasy foray. I liked him, and he had a really good voice in that book, and it seemed concise and had a lot of ideas that I thought were interesting. So I wanted to see. It's a big lover of werewolves, and don't think they get a lot of good stories or good interpretations. So I was also looking just forward to reading a good werewolf story, and it was. As I pointed out to you guys when I was recommending it, be prepared for a lot of sex, but not like descriptive sex, just sex.
So I didn't read the book, but when you mean it's not descriptive, it's just in the middle of the sentence. It's and then they had sex, werewolf sex. They were Team Jacob all the way. Not Team Edward.
It's more about
there is
pining.
werewolf sex in the book, but still.
It's more about him pining over his wife. And
Oh.
our legs went on forever, and then we made love, and then and fade out.
Fade to black.
We were on the stairs. We didn't even make it to the bedroom. And that was like the fifth time he talked about it. It's like, okay, this guy likes having sex with his wife. Cool.
Yeah, that's it.
No, I mean, it wasn't
That's
bad,
actually
but-
that's actually novel to see in a book.
Yeah. Werewolves usually are notorious cheaters. They're not serial monogamous
Well, funny you
who have
mention that
licking
because-
boners for their wives. Yeah.
Funny you mentioned that because they met because they cheated on their spouse.
Yeah.
See, I'm just guessing because again, I'm spitballing here. But anyways, as you were saying, Andrew, the Oprah,
Well, and they aren't well.
are they both
They are-
werewolves or
No.
just
One
Neither
becomes a
of them are
werewolf.
at the start of the novel.
Oh,
One is by the end, but yeah, they're like a rich couple from Illinois.
Ann Arbor.
Oh,
Yeah,
but isn't Nichols from Illinois, or are they just both from Michigan?
They met at University of Michigan.
Oh, okay.
Nathan, as our resident Ann Arbor expert, is there a lot of werewolves up there?
No, but there's a lot of pretentious professors cheating with other professors' wives.
While listening to Werewolves of London. Yeah, I get it.
Well, the werewolves in it are in Georgia, so they're not in Michigan.
As in real life.
I mean, so this takes place in a small town in Georgia. They move down there because his aunt dies and leaves him the house. She kind of instructs him to sell it because she says it's not good for them to move down here. This is in the middle of the Depression as well. So it's not obviously good to like, hey, let's move down here and have no income and
He's
try
a
and
war.
find their way.
He's a World War I veteran, and he's decided she's a school teacher, so she finds a job there at the school, and then he is going to write a book about his great grandfather or grandfather who was a slave owner and had his plantation down there, just derelict or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's their intent. That's why they end up in this town, and then the town starts doing this thing that seems almost like something out of The Wicker Man, or is it Samsara? I haven't seen it yet, but I know it's like weird European witchcraft stuff. They start sending pigs like out across the river, and it's like, this is archaic. Why are we doing that? And then there ends up being a reason for it. So.
Well, they actually have a practical debate because there's pro-release the pigs, and then there's anti-release the pigs. And anti-release the pigs are like, hey, it's the Depression. We could eat these pigs. We could sell these pigs. Why are we just setting them loose in the woods not to come back? And the pro-pig people are like, it's what we've always done. And they get real vague about why they've done it. And because these two are relative outsiders, but of course they get drawn into the pro and anti-pig debate. And so what they turn out is they have a debate, and common sense rules the day. Because it's like, yeah, we're not sending any more pigs out in the woods to be killed because we need to eat this stuff. It's depression. We can't just be feeding and raising these hogs and then turning them loose and getting nothing for it, because as far as memory goes, they weren't getting anything for it. But we find out later why.
Yeah, so I mean, things start getting crappy around town. I mean, obviously, he kind of tries to go for a couple times to foray to the plantation, but never makes it there. The first time encountering a naked below the waist boy that throws rocks at him really hard.
What's with the naked below the waist boy thing?
That's
I'm
in the
confused.
book. It's
But why?
Because he's
And he has some weird line. It's
turning.
like,
Oh,
hey,
Turning-
wild man, I wish I could run around with my pecker in the wind. It's like he tries to engage in this conversation with this feral child using these English prose on him, like.
But yeah, the boy is like constantly turning into a werewolf, and his clothes are getting ripped off.
oh, okay. My bad. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up. My bad.
That's all right.
So the first foray doesn't go
Well, I mean, they don't tell you that when that happens. It's just
You're just like, why is there a weird kid with no pants
yeah,
on?
it's
What's that about?
and he gets an erection while he's like throwing rocks at him.
Okay.
And then at one point he smiles, and he's just like jagged teeth in his mouth.
Kids these days, am I right?
Those
Yeah,
days.
that's when Frank realizes that everything is not as it seems in their town, because like there's some weird shit going on there. There's feral children running around the woods, and the who was the guy? the taxidermist.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but yeah.
I only know one person's name. I know Nichols. I don't remember anybody else's name in this book.
Well, the taxidermist he's from Indiana, supposedly. He's like, yeah, I'm not like these people down here. I'm not like these Southern people. He goes, because he basically says, I don't believe in God. He has all kinds of stuff that he says, and he likes to stay drunk all the time.
And smoke.
And smoke a lot.
He's the resident moonshine maker.
Yeah.
Because technically, liquor is illegal in the town, but everybody kind of looks the other way. But yeah, I mean, a bunch of vagrants start coming to town. A weird, huge black guy that kind of just is silent and buys him stuff. And the general store owner is nice to him, and so is the main character. But everybody else kind of like talks shit about him and stuff. And I mean, they're going to the ice cream parlor in town, and like everybody's looking for work, and they point the homeless people and like, oh, hey, go to the pastor's house. He'll give you a free meal or whatever. And they kind of just say no and kind of just were insistent about getting work somewhere and all this other stuff. But then the dead bodies start turning up.
Well, also, like, after he meets the kid in the forest, he starts having his World War One flashbacks, which is a constant theme.
Oh, that's true. I mean, there's... what was the first body? Is it a mauled child from the farmer in town?
It's one of the kids he was playing baseball with.
Yeah. And so everybody's kind of... Then they lead a posse across the river because the dogs find stuff, and that didn't go well either. 3 excursions into the
Well, they have a first 4-way, but then they have dogs the first time. They had dogs the second time. But everybody
I know they find the big black guy that was in town, and then supposedly the sheriffs from the next town over do something with him, but then they all get kind of weirded out and they don't talk and they leave. So, I mean, there's a bunch of like weird instances in the book and stuff like that where people just like look the other way, basically, like they kind of know what's going on, but they just kind of shut their mouths.
Yeah, they blame it on just some black guy, and like the sheriff's just kind of looking the other way. It's like, well, if you want to kill him, I'm not going to condone it, but I can look the other way. It's like, if you guys are just really sure that this guy did it, it's like, we're not sure, but we're angry. And he's black, so...
Yeah, there's no talk of like a judge or a trial or anything. It's like, well, are you going to kill him or not? You know, it's kind of like that's the debate. It was like, wait a minute.
And weirdly, the judge from the Kyle Rittenhouse trial was in this book, and he kept getting phone calls with Trump's, No? Anybody?
Oh, yeah, he kept saying, I'm proud to be an American on his cranky phone, like the kind you'd crank up that you call
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was like, that's all I know about what's going on. But anyways, go ahead.
So anyway, they eventually lead a posse into the forest and basically lose all the hunting dogs and stuff like that, and a couple members get injured or killed, and then they...
See, I thought that was the second, because there's the first time they go out there, and then one of the guys kind of disappears, and they just kind of scared and leave, and then that guy gets sent back, and he's talking about like them changing into werewolves and stuff like that, but they just don't believe him.
Oh, and they also tie him to the ground, and the woman forces him to have sex with her too. That's what happens to one of the captured guys.
That also happened to him, because that also happens to Nichols.
No, I thought that happened to the just to the kid that they lost in the first foray into the woods. I didn't know that happened to him too.
Yeah, because
I could be wrong.
Yeah, because that one woman just like has.
Oh that did happen to him
when he's in the cage.
Yeah, she likes to do that.
Anyways, I can't remember what happens between the first like 4-way and the second 4-way, so we might as well just combine them into one. Anyways, yeah, they lose the dogs.
Well, they lose the dogs, and they pretty much expend their party, and they leave, and then people start leaving town just because basically they're either afraid of stuff, they know what's coming, and they're trying to get out of the way, and they think about leaving, and they call the moving company and stuff, and they can't get down there until 2 weeks from when they call them or something like that. Yeah. So basically around the time of the next full moon, and so that's when they start openly attacking town, and he comes upon, our house has been ravaged by them, and kind of starts running back to his house, realizing he probably fell for a trap or whatever, and shoots one in the leg, running back because he went to the other town and got some silver bullets made.
Yeah, the
Smells
taxidermist tells him that silver will hurt him, and fire will hurt him, and drowning will hurt them.
I did like it when his house is under siege, and he has the old cannon that he loads, and he kills one of them with a cannon that's filled with silverware.
Yeah.
That was interesting. I'm trying to, because the whole scene was playing out like, is he really going to fire that off in his house? Just be cacophonously loud, but
Oh, he's practically deaf. He's practically deaf anyway, so.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, he doesn't hear out of one of his ears because of something in the war. Because a grenade went off next to him or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's also a bit where like there's one lady that's still alive and her hand was bitten off, and they bring her to a hospital. This is also between his wife getting bitten, and well, that was the same night, and they talk about like the lady, how her hand started growing back, and then but then she died of fever, and then like they just cremated her body.
Because I mean, eventually they go back into the woods the last time, and because like they said, fire hurts him, and that, which I thought was interesting because it, like, he finally puts two and two together at a certain point and realizes the best way to kill him, and it's because killing him with regular bullets, like shoot him in the head, doesn't work or whatever. You have to literally kill them with silver, and since they only had so many silver bullets and they ran through all of them trying to kill him the last time, and he's captured and brought back to the plantation and learns that a lot of this, pretty much his forefather was a werewolf and his son was a werewolf, and isn't his son the naked boy that walks around or whatever, the fucked up one, if I remember right.
I thought that was like his grandfather.
Oh, okay.
Because he doesn't, yeah, because after his wife gets bit, they I forget, like he's like, yeah, we're out of here, we're done, because he escapes from the farm, because doesn't his wife and the taxidermist help him?
Yeah.
And him and his wife get away. I'm gonna start.
Yeah, when he's captured, he's like put in a cage and a bunch of weird stuff's going on. His wife is having sex with the other werewolves. One of the werewolves has sex with him, and then the taxidermist comes in and pulls him out.
Yeah. Because we find out that he too is a werewolf.
Yeah. But apparently he's old enough he can control it when he doesn't automatically change during a full moon. He can change whenever he wants, but he just doesn't.
And he doesn't have their strength and speed because he smokes cigarettes for so long. And that's when, so anyway, so after this, the taxidermist dies in a standoff at his place with the werewolves, and the husband and wife get away, and then they're just trying to flee town. Because he's just like, yeah, we're just getting out of here. Screw these things. Because he finds out the whole history of it, and then he takes his wife, and they're on the run, and she's at a hotel, and she knows she's going to turn into a wolf or something, so he locks her in the bathroom, and then she gets out and kills a kid. He finds out she like ate a baby or something, and so then he just leaves town. He's like, okay, screw this, I'm out of here, and he goes to Chicago.
Well, he tries to shoot her, but for some reason he misses.
Yeah, something happens. And then he goes to Chicago, and he finds his war buddies, and like the one guy that they kept safe during the war, who got sent off to basically the chemical corps to make mustard gas and phosgene for the Americans. He talks to him, and they come up with a plan.
This is after he was planning to kill himself by drinking a bathtub full of booze.
Yeah.
And then,
What?
he's just sitting in the bathtub drinking the booze, and then he comes up with this idea that like, oh, the taxidermist's lungs were hurt by the cigarettes. He's like, well, I bet their lungs will be extra hurt by mustard gas.
Yeah. And a bunch of and more silver. So yeah, he goes back to the woods with his two World War II buddies, not really telling them everything that went on. They kind of like, well, we were friends in the war. Whatever you say, we'll go do it. But his one friend who's smart and makes the homemade mustard gas, which is like it's the same stuff he made in the war, so it's basically straight up mustard gas, like equally as lethal. Is like, to me it just seems like we're going into the woods and killing people, but I'm not going to ask questions, whatever.
So they got like army uniforms and gas masks, loaded to bear,
silver bullets and like army like 303 rifles or whatever, and they do manage to kill everyone. Now his one friend, like kind of not the chemist, but the other guy is he gets killed, but he does manage to wipe them out, which is like I kind of like. Well, let's talk about the book now. What I liked about it is, number one, this reminded me a lot of H.P. Lovecraft in some ways, where it's like, oh, is there evil out there? Yes, and it's real. There's real evil in the woods. It's like really what you think it is. It's not like implied evil or something magical. It's just straight up murderous, killing evil. Because isn't everyone who becomes a werewolf just slowly lose their, anything that makes them decent? Don't they all become bad after a while? No matter who they are.
Well, I mean, it seems the taxidermist is like the only counter to that, but
yeah,
he seemed to be a smart guy. That's why that's why he only gets along with Nichols, because Nichols is a smart guy. So
yeah.
So apparently, if you just don't give in to your base like emotions, you can survive as being a werewolf, or not even be one. Just happen to live forever and have a large appetite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard people compare it to Salem's Lot, which I remember trying to read Salem's Lot because it's kind of like nothing happens for the first half of the book, and suddenly it's a vampire book.
Yeah.
That's all I remember about Salem's Lot. I don't know if you guys have read that or not, or see the comparison. Because I can definitely see a lot of Stephen King in this, especially there's a podcast I listen to, and they end up talking about Stephen King all the time, which is the Action Boys, and apparently Stephen King, and probably other people use this too, but it's a staple of Stephen King to use the word goose flesh to describe getting goosebumps.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of an old term, but yeah.
Well, I thought that's the thing they always talk about, the Stephen King kind of roulette game of like, to write a Stephen King sentence, all you need is like an outdated term from the 50s, a weird sex act, and like modern technology.
Okay, yeah, you're not wrong. That's a good formula. But yeah, I overall I like this book. It reminded me of other books and other styles of writing without being too derivative. And I also like it when it's like, oh, the evil's real. It's not like metaphoric evil, or it's just like, oh, we're just biased against these people because they're different. It's like, oh no, they're evil. There's something evil. Why they're evil and what led them to there. That was also other evil. But it's at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, it's as bad as you think or worse.
I like the fact that all the werewolves that were, not that they had to go on anywhere else, but they're all just hanging out at the plantation, just fucking, they don't want to leave that place or whatever for some reason, even though that's where all their suffering stems from. And
well, the town was feeding them pigs for years.
Oh, I know. That's why they
free juicy pigs. And they weren't Muslim, so they could eat them.
Yeah, that's true.
But at the same time, I also like the dynamic of like, oh, fire harms them, because like werewolf movies are just like vampire movies. It runs the gamut of like, oh, what's actually bullshit and what's real. Like, it was interesting to see him put the dots together as far as like, oh, he smokes, that's why his lungs are shit. Even though technically, if I shot him in the head right now, he'd come back. But if he smokes, then he fucking doesn't repair that damage. So he just put that to work with the mustard gas and shit. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it's like
I've always thought in werewolf type literature and movies, though, it's always a missed opportunity. Everyone's getting bullets cast. There's a much easier, more effective way to deliver silver. It's a shotgun shell. Just make silver buckshot, because like they can't even hold coins because it burns them. It's like, oh hell, don't even just make silver buckshot. Make it like the tiny BBs that like people that shoot birds to mount them with so they don't damage them. It's like, yeah, get that flowing in the bloodstream. Watch the magic happen. Like, you don't need to make rifles and stuff. I would always like to be Van Helsing, like the Anthony Hopkins Van Helsing more than anything. Just like, yeah, we're going to go do this, and we're going to do it as cruelly as possible because these things are evil and we get a pass. So I always think it's a missed opportunity that no one like, yeah, you don't need to use a pistol, which is hard to hit what you're aiming at, especially if it's like something as big as a bear that's going to eat you. You're going to be nervous. With a shotgun, it's just like, it's going to spread a lot of damage over a wide area. I mean, unless you have to hit the heart or something. I don't know the dynamics. But the way it's always been portrayed to me, and even in this book, is like, oh, silver, just contact with it causes a lot of physical pain. It's like, well, a shotgun will get one off you in a hurry, because that's going to go all throughout.
Well, yeah, I was suddenly inspired with the project. This is always something I've kind of worked on in the background anyways. Or just so you watch a movie. And I was thinking about, that one meme where it's like modern problems require modern solutions.
Yes.
How about ancient problems require modern solutions? So you have like these kind of staple nightmare things, and like, what if somebody like scientifically broke down and hunted down and destroyed these things? So I'm thinking about like working on stuff like that, and then finding out why nobody ever writes that book. It's
Because
too
you
easy.
solve all the problems.
Yeah.
Like, vampires are fast and scary, and you can't stop them, and they're super strong. Well, here's an ultraviolet flash strobe. Vampires.
Well, there it goes.
Just a fat man with a flashlight defeated the ancient evil in like one chapter. It's oh no.
Well, I have like an idea for one where it's just kind of like some sort of forest in Europe, and it's in modern times, and like some amorphous evil like kills somebody, and then just coldly like some rich lady just burns down the forest until there's nothing left and destroys the demon.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Yeah.
The demon is dead, and the air is just filled with smoke. Like, the temperature drops because there's so much smoke in the air, and they can't grow crops. And she's like, "But the demon, it's dead. It's like, you deforested Sweden." Well, yeah. Instead of the planes like dropping water to put out fire, they're just dropping kerosene out the bottom of those, and someone's throwing a flare.
I had this
If
one.
you like that kind of ridiculousness, you should watch that like Troll Hunter.
Yeah.
Like that's a weird movie, but it's like, oh yeah, this is in modern times, and they're using modern weapons.
Well, that's what I liked about the John Carpenter's Vampires. Like that was cool too. It was like neat solutions to vampires.
But then get these things out of the house. We're going to shoot arrows that are hooked to an electric winch and just pull them out into the sun and let God do His work. We don't have to get in there. That's dangerous.
I mean, there's still the thing where it's like nobody believes vampire exists, and like in modern times, that's still like a conceit that's kind of weird. But then I had like I had my vampire versus werewolves one too, where it's like humans had to retreat to the moon, and they find out how to turn people into werewolves and turn them into super commandos and get them back on the moon to fight the vampires. But like the humans on the moon don't want to leave because they basically just build these giant domes that people live in, and like all the people do is like get drunk and have sex all day because they're just cattle for the vampires. It's like, why would I want to stop this life? It's awesome.
We mean have to learn stuff and do productive things? Screw that.
And then I had another idea just for like the conceit of a vampire is that they live forever, or a lot of these things live forever. Is that a vampire on a long space mission, and like so it's just a vampire scientist. So it's like really it's just about like doing research for science, but it's just by a vampire.
Yeah, because do the other rays from other suns and other worlds affect them? Who knows?
Maybe.
Or they're insulated inside the spaceship, and it doesn't matter.
Or
they got spacesuits. Yeah. So.
But anyway, those across the river, check it out. It's a good read. If you're a fan of Lovecraft or Stephen King, or just a good tight story with
it's a pretty quick read.
Yeah.
Or you just want a man that loves his wife.
So this is a book Mike Pence would like. All right, perfect.
Well, I mean, this. So when Nathan was talking about the shotgun pellets or whatever, I was like, oh, he'd like the ending of Streets of Laredo then, because that's more accurate ending to like what somebody would do if they were scared shitless and fucking needed to defend themselves.
Yeah.
But still, Streets of Laredo probably takes the most disturbing scene for a book I've read recently for the year for that award. Matt, you're really seem to be laughing at a lot of the weird shit from that book. Do you want to hear a scene from Streets of Laredo?
Sure. I don't know what it is. So can you explain it?
So the setting is it's turn of the century in Texas and Mexico border. You have an old colonel that's going hunting a guy that's been killing people with his magnified sniper rifle on trains and just basically doing whatever he wants, killing, robbing, just doing whatever he wants up and down the train tracks in this area of Texas and Mexico border. And so he dispatches a posse with him, people he picks up along the way or brought with him from the original destination, and one of them is a sheriff from a small town called Laredo on the Texas-Mexico border. His wife is newlywed to him, and they're both a young couple and live in a small shack together and on the outskirts of town, and he promises her he'll be back. He just wants to have an adventure with the colonel before he sets off on his old age. And so he doesn't tell her when he's going to be back, and she doesn't really know, and she's kind of anxious about it. So she keeps going to the sheriff every day for updates about her husband to see if he's okay, to see if he's coming back soon, if he says anything. And after about a month of that, the sheriff gets tired of her pestering him all the time, so just pulls her into a cell and rapes her and beats the shit out of her. And so she eventually gets free, and then runs back to her house crying and sobbing, and then just contemplates how nobody will want her in this world anymore. She's already pregnant with their son, and found out after he left, and doesn't see how this world's going to be any easier. And she remembers he keeps a lot of rat poison down there for all the rats that come in during the cold months. So she's like, oh, I've seen them die. It gets really easy. So she takes a big glass of water and a big glass of rat poison and goes down to the river. And so she keeps eating the rat poison, drinking water, eating the rat poison, drinking water. She almost eats the entire box of rat poison until the point that she's basically paralyzed and just sees somebody rushing towards her, trying to help her and shit. And she's just like, I'm thirsty, and my belly feels really full, and the kicking won't stop. Oh, but now it's stopped. I can finally be at peace. And then she's blacked out, and she's fucking dead. It's a really grim, fucking fucked up goddamn thing in a Western novel.
Yeah.
It's a weird aside. Is that in the middle of the book or the beginning or the end?
That's about halfway through the book, just a little bit more than that.
Just a light diversion until they get back to the streets
just
of Laredo.
Diversion.
Yeah.
Yeah, Streets of Laredo. It's the ending book for the saga of Lonesome Dove.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay, I was just like, what? I'm like, what is this a part of? I'm not familiar. Okay.
I think
I guess I should say captain, not the colonel, but still, because the captain's lost some of his eyesight and he's kind of lost a step, and he's got PI with him and got a couple other people he grabbed along the way. An accountant that the guy he works for told him to bring along, even though he has no sense. He buys like the biggest shotgun a general store will sell him because he thinks he's gonna need it during the trip, and it just becomes a giant joke throughout most of the book because it's like, why did this dumb motherfucker buy this shotgun? It's like, you don't need it. You're just going to dislocate your shoulder. You're never going to fire it. He's like, why did you buy that? Well, he told me to buy whatever I needed for the journey. And he's like, you're never going to need that, son. You bought a paperweight or whatever. So, yeah. Anyway.
What's the other one? Comanche Moon or something?
Yeah, Comanche Moons. That's the first one, technically. And I didn't know that before I read the Streets of Laredo. Kind of wish I would have went back and read Comanche Moon first, but I guess there's still time. After you know how everybody's story ends, it kind of takes the... I mean, I guess technically you could still read the prequel with Captain and Gus in their prime, I guess. But, I mean, maybe there'd be even more fucked up shit in that book.
You never know.
But I thought the child gangbang in the sewers on It was a pretty dark tale. I don't know which takes the cake more. Because Stephen King, another hallmark of his books, is weird sexual acts done by people. That's pretty much what he writes in every book.
Have you ever read Lonesome Dove?
No, I'm weird. I don't really read fiction. I don't have the attention span. I mostly exclusively read nonfiction. I don't read fiction at all because I can't do it.
But like, what do you think Lonesome Dove is?
Just some really like sad guy that jerks off to doves. Is that what it is?
It's not Nikola Tesla.
Oh, yeah. I don't really know what it is. I've heard the title before, but I
always thought it was going to be like some epic western that's like a love story.
And that's what I thought. Yeah, that makes more sense to me.
No, it's like a horrific tale of like what the
Did they make a TV movie out of it?
Yeah, they made several.
Yeah,
but it was
a real movie with like
Tommy Lee Jones and.
But was it screwed up like the actual source material?
I haven't watched it yet. I've been meaning to.
Where do you? Is that like, somewhere you can watch it?
Huh?
Is it streaming somewhere?
Probably. find ways.
But yeah, I'm strange. My brain like doesn't have the attention span to read fiction. I'm just like, don't care. Like it's not real.
Yeah, that's media. Well, that's why I do books on tape. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's easier.
But I mean, you can hear a Wonderful Woman talk about her being a whore during then, and talk about her wonderful euphemisms for getting fucked. It's like he put his carrot in me, or just
That's-
weird shit like.
Well, I like the general euphemism for a sex worker is it's a working girl.
Oh yeah, working girl. I've heard that one. Comment to double back to your idea for Werewolves in the Moon. What would that be called? Do you have a title for that?
I think I had a bunch. I think I ended up on like Wolf Fang or something like that.
I want to suggest Moon Doggy. No, just kidding. That's not. I like yours better, but
Well, I would like to go with Wolf Brigade, but there's an anime called that. So.
oh, what if you put an extra F in it? Would it work? Or just with a U instead of an O? Wolf Brigade.
I don't want to. I don't want to jump on someone else.
So,
That was
Well, speaking of sadness, we watched the movie.
yes.
well, you guys did. My internet didn't work for half the day, so my plan to watch it didn't really come through.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's too bad. It was an interesting movie, the 1998 drama film Sada by
A Japanese movie.
Nobuhiko Obayashi.
I can talk about the first 20 minutes because that's how far I got into it. It was still a wonderful 20 minutes. It was a very a film I wasn't expecting in the way it was shot.
Yeah, like it opens up with like almost all the aesthetics are of it's comedy, but it's a rape scene, so it's very discordant.
How did you... Okay, I guess I haven't seen it, so I don't understand how they shot that. So it's funny, but also it's like, oh.
No, but it's like all the stuff. It's like weird camera angles, like kind of like upbeat music.
But you're like, what's going on here? Like,
like
oh.
calliope music. I was like, dun, 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 dun.
Huh. Well, that's a specific
And
choice.
it's in
Wow.
black and white. Yeah, it's very.
Well, this is the same guy who directed House, which we talked about a couple years ago,
Yeah.
which was kind of a weird horror movie.
Is
Yeah.
that from the 80s, that one?
It's actually from '77, but it looked like when you watch the movie, you'd think like, oh, this guy stole stuff from Sam Raimi. It's like, no, Sam Raimi stole stuff from him.
I think I've actually seen that movie, the House movie, but...
Yeah, because that was like where like some lady gets her fingers cut off and they're dancing on the piano. and
Yes,
stuff.
I have. Where
Yeah.
did I see that? But yeah, I'm familiar with that, but I'm
I
not
think
familiar
maybe we
with
both saw The House too. I don't know if we saw. I can't remember.
Electric Boogaloo. That's right.
Yeah, the director of this is known to just as as a Japanese experimental film guy. Like a lot of the stuff he does is it's just weird, kind of offbeat storytelling and this is based on a very famous murder story in Japan, because Sada Abe is a real person. She was a geisha and a prostitute, and this guy, choked
Well,
her up.
Okay, so what she's known for is choking out. Oh, you're just about to say it. Never mind. Go ahead.
She choked her lover out and then cut his penis off and testicles, because she didn't want him to, ever be with another woman, because she loved him, and he couldn't be with her because he was married with kids. And this happened in the 30s, I think. Yeah, 1936. And there's been like 15 movies in Japan made about this woman, just all different versions of her story. Some are straight police procedural dramas. This one is more of an esoteric romp through the horror that is this woman's life. Because and there's a lot of things like I researched about, because I didn't know, like, what is a geisha girl? I had no idea. I thought it was someone who served UT and played musical instruments, and told stories. Like, I didn't. Sex could be part of it or couldn't. It depends on who it is or whatever. But basically, these girls are trained from like a very, very young age to be dancers and singers, and it basically would be like paying to have a girlfriend for a night that could quote Shakespeare to you and put on a little play. It's like there's not really many Western parallels.
Equivalents, yeah.
Yeah. So it's the whole first half of the movie is just like how she falls down because she's not because her dad sends her off to be a geisha girl because she gets raped by someone in the city she's in who is ostensibly a friend of hers, and so then he sends her off to like geisha school to be a geisha girl. She's not really very well liked by the other geishas, and so she becomes a straight up what they call it in the movie, like a licensed prostitute.
I'm not
It was
sure.
something like that.
Can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in real life she left being a geisha because she didn't like the lifestyle anymore, and yeah, she was kind of ostracized because she started geisha school too old. Most kids
Yeah.
are usually born into it, or they come into it in their early teens. She started at 17 in real life, so by like 19 she became a fully licensed prostitute instead. But she didn't like that either because she didn't know all what was involved with it.
She also got syphilis,
Yep.
which was treatable back then, but it's not like you could cure it. It was a disease you could manage. And those were some of the weirdest scenes in this movie. Was you basically had a camera on the floor. Every sex scene in this movie, almost except the one where the guy's in the closet, is a camera down her from her perspective looking up, and there was like they flashed through a scene of like hundreds of guys having sex with her. Like it really with again weird upbeat kind of pop funk music playing. It's like, oh, this is odd.
There's this cool scene early on where like they're like running from she's with a group and they're like running from the police.
Mm-hmm.
And you see the scene where like they cut to like it looks like a weird angle, like the scene is distorted, and then the guy throws a rock at a mirror what the camera's pointed at, and then she's like behind the mirror. It's like everything changes like all of a sudden. It's a really cool shot.
Huh. And was this on Criterion, or where
Yes,
did you watch
it was Criterion.
I was gonna guess Disney Plus.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, because that's why I picked this movie. Is just
Double
watching the
feature with
first-
Mulan.
Just watching the first 20-some minutes of it, like a couple weeks ago, when I was looking for recommendations for what to pick for when, since you guys being nice, let me pick movies occasionally. But it was just really like the way it was shot. Even though it's not a fun story. It's not a good story. It's very depressing and very very sad. But at the same time, it's not shot or done any way like that. So I don't think I've ever seen another movie that brings that perspective.
Well, I think in other people's hands, this movie would seem as irresponsible, but I think because the subject matter is so old, it works out okay. Because it seems like what they're trying to do is like give her a fair shake. Like she's a person, so we're going to go through her life before she cuts off the dude's dick.
Yeah, there was a lot that led up to that.
Yeah, because everybody else just knows her as the dick cutting guy, and then goes backwards from there. Over here, we're starting like with her life rather than the incident.
People don't make rash decisions in a vacuum.
Well, what I saw this movie as watching it as a whole is like, this was a woman who was driven insane. This was a woman who just wanted some kind of love and never could find it really. And there were people that did love her, but they also had other commitments like families and social positions. Like the one professor, he was like, well, I can never be traced back to you because it would ruin my standing.
Well, they give her like this like unrequited love character. Was it Tetsuya? Or no, that's the guy no, it's Okada.
Okada,
yeah, Okada's after she's raped, this Okada guy helps her, but apparently he's a leper and he gets sent off to like some island.
colony.
Yeah, leper colony later on. And also that it preps the thing where he like pretends to cut out his heart and give it to her or whatever, which is like a preface for what will happen later on. It's like, oh, this gives her a reason later on. But like she's always looking for him, but she can never find him. So
Yeah, so this was just a woman driven insane by, just her lot in life was terrible. And so it's like, even though what she does is extreme, and I mean, we've had a few dick cutters here too, and they always became, because who was the lady?
Lorraine Bobbitt?
Yeah, Lorraine. But yeah, see, we all know her name, or we know it when we hear it. It's like, yeah, I think that's something that like taps into people's dark psyche of like, oh, what if someone, people do this? Oh my God, it's unthinkable. It's
Was she just cheated on, or was she abused too? I can't even remember anymore. Okay.
I think it was both.
And then he still came out ahead, if you count having his dick reattached or whatever happened to him. I can't even remember. Like he was.
Yeah, they reattached it, and I think he was a
He did
cause
porn.
celeb for a little while in porno, and then
Yep.
and everyone like actually talked to him for 5 minutes and like, oh, ick, okay, enough with you.
This guy's not very nice.
Yeah, guess what? This guy's not as cool as we thought he would be. It's like, well, he drove his wife to cut his dick off. So
Yeah.
Who knew he'd be an asshole?
yeah, who knew?
We just thought
Don't
he
get
let
me wrong.
he-
I'm not pro dick cutting, but I also think
No.
if you're just a horrible asshole, then yeah, it's like I understand why it happened. I don't condone the behavior, but I understand why it happened.
No, I know, but it's not like he just didn't use coasters enough times that she lost her mind. Fucking cut off his dick or some shit.
Yeah, you like his car door into her car or something. It's like fuck. No,
You never leave the keys in the bowl, John, you motherfucker. You
But,
gotta be
like,
nice
at
to
some
your wife
point-
to cut your dick up.
At some point, she starts becoming like a dishwasher for some reason.
she's working at she's trying to apprentice at a restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because one of the guys came up with some side scheme. It was like, we can get enough money to start a restaurant together. Someone else who lied to her, or maybe it was one of the main characters. I don't remember. Some of it was hard to follow because there was a lot of
Yeah.
jump cuts and stuff in this. But it was like, yeah,
Oh, a lot of fourth wall breaking immediately
Oh, yeah.
too. So there's a lot of that. So
But essentially, yeah, she was working at a restaurant, which happened in her real life too, to be an apprentice to start another restaurant in Tokyo, where with her and this guy who said, yeah, we can have a restaurant together, live happily ever after. So yeah, that's why she was working at the restaurant. But
and then, what, she
some
has an
encounters with-
affair with the guy that owns the restaurant. Okay,
Yep.
yeah. Well, and then there's the other guy that's also molesting her on the side.
Yeah, there's so many awful things that happen to this girl in this movie.
And then at some point, you kind of transition to you because she talks to the camera occasionally, trying to explain herself, and then at some point, you realize she's talking to the police.
Yeah, she's being interrogated.
Yeah, and then they go through a scene where like she choked him for a bit, and then like the way she describes it is he told her like, all right, next night like start choking me and don't stop.
Yeah, don't stop. Well, that's what she says. That's
That's what she said.
that's her defense, kind of. But she doesn't really. She pleads guilty.
Yeah.
And this is a death penalty thing in Japan, but the police and everyone, like in real life, the police are like, oh, this woman's so disturbed, it would be cruel to give her the death penalty because it's not. We can't say she's not responsible for her actions because she definitely carried out acts, but she also wrote like a bunch of suicide letters that night and was gonna get drunk and go throw herself off a cliff with the penis of her lover, and so
And we've all been there, so you know.
Yeah. So the police, like, they worked out a deal with the judge where it's like, this is death qualified, but let's not go for death. And she actually only did 5 years in prison and was let out
On a 6-year sentence.
on a 6-year sentence, but she was let out in 5 years for good behavior because they said she was an excellent prisoner.
Probably like the craziest thing is there's this real photo of her that they show they talk about her smiling and she's smiling in the photo, but everybody else in the photo is also smiling. It's
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is that?
After in the 1950s and 60s, she became a celebrity from this. Like she in her later life, she became kind of a minor celebrity in Japan.
Yeah, they catch other people like kind of like swooning over the story and like it's like I wish I could love a man to death. It's like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
This is what they say. This is a harsh, pure love, or it's like the essence of love, or yeah. People were waxing sentimental about this, and I was like, did people really say this, or is this written for a goof, or it's not translating into the English I'm reading well
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, well, this is.
I mean, a lot of this movie is played for comedy, so it is,
Yeah, it's there's a lot of things that are schizophrenic and hard to tell in this movie what's going on.
because they're trying to bring levity to what is a horrible story.
Yeah. What is basically a life of rape that ends in a violent act for this woman, and
'Cause-
she
alright, 'cause
does
it-
like, yeah, no shit, she would do that.
It's also like that. They also do like weird, almost like claymation animation stuff with live people. Where like when she gets in a fight with like the restaurant's wife, and it's just like all weird and everything.
Yeah,
It becomes very Sam Raimi, but like I said, this guy influenced Sam Raimi, not the other way around. But you've
Yeah.
probably seen more Sam Raimi movies than this guy's movies. So.
yeah. These movies are these aren't like Kurosawa movies where I'm like, oh, this is enthralling both in a story way and a way it's filmed and the way it comes together. These are just kind of vaguely disturbing movies that have a point. It's not just done for a goof, but it's also kind of like, I mean, again, it's an approach to a subject matter you wouldn't see in the West. This is a completely uniquely Japanese way of telling this story. Yes. 10-minute warning, guys. Let's get everything in we have to say about Sada. But overall, for my vote, good pick. I actually found myself engaged with this movie in a weird way. I was like, what's going to happen next?
Oh yeah, it's very original.
Yeah, it's completely unique.
A lot
I've
of
never
Chris
seen
Fire.
anything like this in this context with this subject matter.
And the movie's only 23 years old, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't know what time it was made either until I actually looked at the part of the Criterion Collection where it's like, oh, 98. Okay. I mean, it was well done enough. I thought it was going to be in the mid to early 2000s. So, I mean,
Well, I mean, he did House in 77, so this is, it's 21 years after that. So.
No, I mean, he's like I said, from the 20 minutes, and I looked up the story during the podcast just to make sure, like, what actually happened, because I don't know why the hell my internet's been so fucked up, because, like, when you texted me from the other room, like, oh yeah, this podcast is starting, and it's like, oh, okay, it takes, like, forever to get onto my email, but now, like, obviously me just talking has been fine, I think, this entire time. So, I don't know. Anyway, yeah.
So yeah, Sada, check it out.
And I watched an unoriginal film last night, Black Widow.
Oh.
The most unoriginal, by the numbers story you'll ever see by Marvel.
Oh, that Black Widow. I was thinking, like Kiss of the Spider Woman.
Oh no.
Lair of the White Worm. Like, what's he talking about?
Probably the best.
Black Widow.
Probably the best scene in the movie is that there's this like black market guy she's friends with that keeps getting her shit all movie, and so it's like the end scene with them, and she's like, "What'd you get me, some old fucking piece of shit jalopy this time?" And so she pulls up on this bike, and that's the scene of him sleeping in this field, and she's asking what kind of piece of shit he got her to break her friends out of the raft or whatever. It's this giant fucking ultra modern like Tony Stark jet. She can clearly see it from where she's standing, but she acts like she's playing poker face about what kind of piece of crap did you get me this time. Just, it's the best scene because it is the most unthought through scene in the whole movie. And David Harbour is delightful in it because he's a giant fucking idiot. But yeah, anyway.
I watched the first 10 minutes of Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Was he big and red?
Not yet. He was still tiny, but I think a lot of people are watching that because every time I try to watch it, it keeps like spinning in a circle. Like it'll play for 20 seconds, spin in a circle. So yeah, I've been through 10 minutes of it. So far, holds up. It's realistic. Yeah. It's a lot like Sada. Yeah.
Groundbreaking CG in that.
Yeah,
Bites off a person's genitals. They have to put Clifford the Big Red Dog down by the end of the movie.
Yeah, like Old Yeller, but with a giant cannon.
And then it becomes some weird anti-vax propaganda.
I hope so.
It'd be weird if Clifford the Big Red Dog was rated R because they didn't get the dog neutered, so he just has this giant dick and balls the entire time he's walking on screen.
Yeah, and the mom's like trying to avoid it the whole time. Like, oh, Clifford.
It's like, Clifford, enough.
Yeah, Clifford dies from. He gets rabies, and they give him the vaccine, and they give him some kind of vaccine, and he dies, and it's like at the end of the story, all the kids are crying, and it's like, what did we learn, kids? It's like, never trust vaccines.
Yeah, he was allergic to it, just like Aaron Rodgers. Yeah.
Yeah.
He thought he was immunized, but he wasn't.
Oh, God. Nothing would surprise me.
Nope, we're in that time where nothing happens is surprising.
All right. Well, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Matt?
Andrew.
Goodbye, America.